Barbershops like Tom's Oyster aren't just places for haircuts, they're the heart of the community where stories are shared and struggles are laid bare. Today, Phillip is here to talk with Tom, a small business owner facing the harsh realities of rising costs, immigration pressures, and the threat of big corporate chains. Let's find out what it really takes to keep the doors open and the community spirit alive.
Tom, so why did you choose to become a barber and why are you passionate about being a barber?
So what happened was, when I was 15, I needed a job ultimately, and how I got that was I walked into a shop just to sweep hair. So after I started sweeping it, eventually I just ended up, when I was talking to the woman, I was just doing my thing, in there sweeping up. And then after a while she said, do you want to start doing hairdressing? And that's, how I started getting into it. Because I didn't really get into it thinking I was going to become a barber.
Really?
It actually started in hairdressing.
Oh, wow.
That's how it started. So, I was 15. And then she said, do you want to come start for me full time? And I thought, yeah. And that's how it started.
So it's the interesting thing, obviously you've been a hairdresser and you've worked for businesses. Now you've got your own business. How different was that and how hard was it to get to the stage of having a shop?
Oh, massively different. I mean, when I first started, most barbers start quite young.
Yeah.
It has changed over the years now because there's a lot of, people doing barbering courses and stuff. So that's how they get into it.
And you didn't go a course, you're kind of apprentice. You actually started on the job.
So I started on the job. But the difference between having a shop and, just cutting hair, because when you first start, barbering, really it's a lot of people get into it for passion. It's more than just a job. It's a bit of a lifestyle. It's a bit of an art form, barbering, people like to say. So obviously when I got the shop, I was, then a business owner as opposed to just being like a barber. And that was, the difference was just colossal. So
Why did you enjoy it more when you actually were the boss?
Well, I enjoy it more because I could put my own vision on what I wanted to do. So I've always liked the old school stuff in barbering, because there's a lot of modern barbers. I've always liked the old school haircuts, the old school styles. So obviously, when I worked for my last place, it was great, but I just had to do what he said. Whereas now I can have my own take on the styles I want to portray, what I want to push out there to the people, and that's how it went.
That's fascinating because in the end, to me, what I've noticed is if people have their own scope to make their own choices, it makes such a difference to their lives. So rather than them being a kind of robot that's doing exactly what they've been told to do, it makes such a huge difference if they can actually make the decisions themselves and do what they like. And rather than being told what to do, we want to have our own. Massively different.
Massively. And that was it. I mean, to be honest with you, when I started, as soon as I realised, right, I want to do this, I wanted to just go like that anyway. But when it finally happened, obviously the reality of owning a business was a lot different to what I thought. It's definitely not plain sailing. I've had a lot of curveballs and speed bumps along the way, but I definitely wouldn't have changed it because, that's what's made me,
So how long did you do it for somebody else? How long were you employed by?
I was employed for 5 years. 5 years I was employed. But it was always a plan. During that time, I was just saving up until eventually I had enough money to do it myself. But I started at 15, but it was only really at 19 that I really got a job where I was put on the shop floor because it's really hard in barbering to get an opportunity to start. It's almost impossible to get your foot in the door at barbers and start cutting hair. Almost impossible. It's really hard.
People won't take the risk on having their hair cut by somebody who's not experienced. Is that what the problem is? Or
Well, what the problem actually is that unlike a lot of businesses in barbering, there's not really any companies that have got massive amounts of money. There's no multi-million-pound barbering firms.
Are they all individual shops on the whole?
99%. So if you're a junior barber, you've got to go in, you've got to find someone who's willing to take you on, willing to spend, all the money, the wages on the apprenticeship for them. So that guy, because he's not a multi-millionaire, so it's coming out of his pocket, he's got to spend the time to teach them. And most
they may not
people,
stay. The point is, how do you know they're going to stay?
And you don't know they're going to stay. And most people, realistically, the money they're earning from one business just ain't enough.
I mean,
It's a lot of risk for that person. It's a massive chunk of their money.
I hear the problem is, how do you get a barber trained? Because the barber shop operator hasn't got enough margin in order to cover the cost, and the guy is trained, he can just walk off and do it himself. So do you have apprentices? Do you have people that you actually...
Yeah, I do. I have actually brought, I've took a couple of people on and I've sort of got them to a point now where they're on the shop floor, giving them the opportunity. But
how long did it take before they can actually cut hair themselves properly?
So I like to do it I need to get them to the point where they're just about ready to be on the shop floor cutting hair, and then I can just watch over like Hawkeye am almost. And then if I need to step in, most people, with a little bit of charm and that, you can get away with it, and people don't mind. They want to see you do well, as long as you're, giving them what they want and they're enjoying their time in the shop.
And they'll stay.
Yeah, because no one's walking out of a bad haircut anyway. Most people. What I say to all the apprentices is, I say, look, at the moment, you're not selling yourself on your skill because you're not there yet. So you've got to sell yourself. You've got to sell who you are, because if they like you, then they don't mind.
So are you training them to cut the hair, or to also interact and deal with the person whose hair's being cut? Is it about a relationship? I mean,
definitely. It's all customer service at the end of the day. You can, with it. Good example. The other day, one of the apprentices, he's come in, and it's the classic. He's cut someone's hair too short on the top. Classic. A million times this has happened. So, I've had to jump in, sort of smooth it over. And I just said to him, look, giving him a bit of charm, a bit of talk, laugh and a joke. Obviously, I can see he's not happy. But what we've done is I've gone, look, don't worry about paying today. I've seen this now. I know what you want. Just come back in a couple of weeks.
And they come back?
And they come back, and then they leave, and he's still left happy.
Really?
And he didn't even like his hair. Great.
How long would it take for somebody before they can actually start to cut?
Yeah, so this is the thing, like you said about the apprenticeship, you can do a barbering course or you can get your MVQs, but that doesn't mean you can cut hair. Ultimately, they need to be competent to cut hair. Ultimately, no, it's like if you go and get your hair cut, you don't care what qualification they got. If your hair looks rubbish at the end, you're not happy. It's that simple. So the system's broken because there's not enough money.
That's it. So in other words, you're the kind of business, to me, Tom, that we need. I mean, somebody's providing a service that's always going to be needed. And there's never, to me, I would never have a robot or an AI system cutting my hair, because it's about the relationship.
Well, it's simply, like I said, it is simply down to the fact that you're dealing with small one-man bands normally. And so the money isn't there to train the people. And that's what the problem is. Like, a lot of companies like plumbing companies, you see there is a fair few multi-million-pound plumbing companies where it's easier to get an apprenticeship. Not saying it's easy for them, but the money's there to push them through. Whereas in barbering,
the margin's not there. Let me ask this question. What if people can't afford the price of a haircut? Are there people that don't have the haircut? What do they actually do? Do they not have the haircut, or do they actually cut it themselves? If they can't afford, I mean, if they're living in an area where it's too expensive to have your haircut, what do you actually do?
Well, this is interesting, because in different areas I do notice, like the other day I was driving through sort of places like Selhurst and Thornton Heath and stuff like that, and the haircut price dramatically dropped in the area. Yeah, it dropped probably 30%. And I think, to be honest with you, in this area, if they can't afford it, then I suppose, there's so much competition nowadays. Well, that is the problem, because there's always someone willing to undercut you. So,
are there some people that don't cut their hair, do you think? Or are there some people, what do you do? Are there machines you can buy that actually enable you to do it yourself?
Yeah, so I definitely think there are people out there that can't afford it and they're cutting it themselves. But if that's the case, then
it's crazy. So,
yeah.
So to me, the point you make is very important, that we need barbers, and we need to have a system which enables barbers to be trained. And you're saying most of them are kind of small one-man shops at the moment.
99% of barber shops are individually owned, or maybe there's a partnership, but there's not many businesses in barbering that have enough money to push the apprenticeship through. And I've had so many people come to me and say, I'm looking for jobs, and you're like one of the only people that's got back to me because no one offers apprenticeships. It's like most people, you know, they'll even after they do a barbering course, so they go into London or wherever they're living, they'll do a barbering course. They spend about 3,000 on a barbering course.
Is that how much they spend?
3,500, sometimes 4,000. They probably, you know, a lot of people have, you know, done it on a loan or a monthly payment or a credit card or whatever they've done. And then afterwards, they still can't get a job because that doesn't, after the course, you're still not amazing at barbering it because it takes a while.
You see, there are a lot of people that want to become barbers, they're never actually able to do it because there are not enough opportunities to train as an apprentice barber. Do you think that?
Definitely. It's like, in barbering, the hardest part is the start. Because getting your foot, even though it's funny, because it's not, you know, we're not doctors, we don't have to do loads of degrees. In some aspects, it's harder to get your foot in the door because you can, if you've got the brains, you can get into university, someone will offer you that. Whereas in barbering, you're just hoping that it's simply hope that someone's taking you on. It's simply hope because you've got to come to someone like me and just hope that I'm in that frame of mind or I'm in the position that I can do it.
And the mistake is because we don't focus on people, and it's a rewarding job. You know, let me ask you this: why do you enjoy it?
Why do I enjoy it?
Yeah. What does it do for you?
Well, what it does for me, nothing's better for me in my life. I'd say this when I'm at work than when there's an atmosphere in the shop going on. When there's 4 or 5 of us cutting and it's flying, you know, the tunes are popping. It's just amazing. It's a great feeling because you can see when you can't really hear what anyone's talking about because there's so many people talking. That's what I love, creating the atmosphere. You can tell people come in the barber shop, a lot of men, they just have a good time in it.